Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome. Welcome to campus if you've just made the trek from the Lab of Ornithology, and welcome to the biennial celebration of student engagement at the Laboratory of Ornithology. This has actually become quite a tradition. I believe this is the 4th time we've done it. So it's my pleasure to welcome you and all the students. My name is Irby Levitt, if you don't know me. I'm a professor at Cornell, and at the lab, one of my most enjoyable tasks is to look after things related to students, whether they're undergraduates, grad students, or postdocs. And we're going to see a wonderful cross-section of those kinds of individuals today. So, as I said, this is our chance to celebrate all the ways that students engage with the Laboratory of Ornithology. As you'll see, I think those methods of engagement and modes of engagement are incredibly varied, as are the students themselves. This year we actually have something different and a little bit special. Tonight is the world premiere of a video that was crafted by a group of undergraduates, graduates, and postdocs in conjunction with the lab's multimedia program. And actually this 8-minute video says a lot of the things that I would say otherwise standing up here to introduce this event. So I think without further ado, we're going to move into the video. After the video, I'll just say a few additional words and then turn the floor over to 54 of our most inspiring students to tell you in their own words about why they're here at Cornell and what they're doing. So let's run the video. Can I have the lights, please? So certainly some familiar faces in there, and some faces that will become even more familiar in the next hour, as you see the real live version of the video that we just saw. Just quickly, we'll recap some of the numbers related to student activity at the Lab of O. Some of you who are real veterans will remember, if you go back a while, students were relatively few and far between at the lab, certainly in the old building before we built the Johnson Center and made a place for all these young people to come, kind of a mecca for students at Cornell. There were students at the lab, but they weren't super numerous. Now, on kind of on an annual basis, we engage with more than 100 undergraduates doing internships or research projects or things that are kind of above and beyond regular classwork. In this particular year, we did a tally. We also engaged with an additional 1,300 undergraduates through formal teaching at Cornell in various classes led by lab faculty and staff. Our graduate student body right now kind of tallies about 30 students that are officially advised by people based at the lab, and probably at least that many. They're hard to count, actually, but there's at least that many graduate students who hail from other parts of campus who are deeply involved with various lab programs or collaborations with lab individuals. Our postdoc roles are modest but growing. I think at this point we have about 8 postdocs in total. Some of you may know that we just launched the first kind of formal Lab of Ornithology postdoctoral program, and we have 2 positions available this coming fall. Applications were due on Friday, and we got almost 50, even after after weeding out some that were really not appropriate. We still have about 50 applicants for these 2 postdoctoral spots. So clearly, the Lab of O and Cornell remain a place that people really want to come and engage at all components of their higher education process. This is kind of the moment when we celebrate all the different ways that students engage with the lab. And really, with no further ado, I want to let them tell you about it in their own words. So if the first group of students will come up and get ready, I will cue the PowerPoint. I also wanted to mention, it's going to be very, very tempting when you hear these young people speak about themselves to give them a big round of applause after every person. But I'd like to ask that we hold the applause till the end and celebrate them all together. I think that'll keep things rolling that much better. Give me just 1 second. Okay, and I think we can start things off with Senior Natalie Gonzalez.
Hi, my name is Natalie Gonzalez, and I have been a part of the Elephant Listening Project for 2.5 years. I have always been passionate about the conservation of endangered species, but my time with ELP has made me a dedicated elephant conservationist. While many volunteers work by logging elephant calls, I spend my time working on the many other projects that ELP has. My biggest project has been a symbolic adoption program. I spent nearly 1.5 years going through all of our elephant data to compose biographies and family trees, gather photos, and make videos. After the program launched last winter, I turned my attention to making videos so that the public could visualize elephant communication through field videos and spectrograms. Although my work is certainly not research and does not involve directly working with elephants, it has inspired me to seek field work on my own. For the past 2 summers, I have interned and volunteered with elephants in India and in Thailand, and I cannot wait to work with forest and savanna elephants. Although I'm eager to graduate and get back into the field, I treasure the time I have left with ELP and the amazing staff and volunteers that keep it running. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Julian. I'm a graduate student in the Department of Neurobiology and Behavior here at Cornell. And I want you to imagine hiking through a dense Trinidadian rainforest. And as you walk, you discover that there are tiny hummingbirds singing just inches off the ground all around you. And all of them sound essentially the same. As you continue just a few steps further down the trail, you notice that all the birds in front of you are singing a song that's completely different from the birds that you just left a few feet behind you. My dissertation research aims to answer how and why vocal dialects like these can occur on such a tiny spatial scale. Now, as you can imagine, working with one of the world's smallest and most poorly known birds requires the development of some very specialized techniques. And it's through working with members of the Lab of Ornithology that I've been able to do this. So for instance, I've teamed up with engineers at the lab to create what is currently the world's smallest radio transmitter to track females to their nests, and I get paternity data that way. And this is just one of the many examples of the ways that the lab's been extremely important to me during my time here. So thank you.
My name is Benlin Alexander, and I was the Bartell Science Illustration intern this past summer from May through August. And the first project that that I worked on was to paint 4 small birds that were turned into window clings as a members incentive. So these are posted on Facebook, and they received over 3,000 likes, and people got onto the lab's website and wanted to join. After that, I painted a story of the passenger pigeon. Next September will be the 100th anniversary of the death of the last passenger pigeon, and the lab plans to use this painting as a encouragement to discuss how we can prevent future species from extinction. I applied to this internship because I wanted my work to be used in a way that that can affect the world in a good, encouraging way. My time at the lab allowed me to do that, and I'd like to thank the lab for giving me the opportunity to learn and use my abilities. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Taylor Heaton-Cristologo, and I'm a sophomore undergraduate studying animal science and biology. And I first began my work with the lab as a freshman when I completed a summer field ornithology internship under the supervision of David Bonter at Shoals Marine Lab. My work was looking at the effects of gull diet on chick growth rate and survival in herring gull chicks. And to do my study, I supplementally fed different pairs of nesting gulls in order to see if there was a response in the survival and growth rate of the chicks. While completing my project, I was really able to grow as a scientist. In the midst of being dive-bombed by angry bird parents and chasing down rambunctious gull chicks, I really found that I have a passion for field biology. And I am happy to say that the interests that I have formed and will continue to form with the lab will give me direction in the future steps that I take in my life. I suppose you can say that I am forever grateful to the lab for taking me under its wing.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jake Burv, and I'm a first-year grad student here at the Lab of Ornithology, or actually in the Department of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology, I should say. I come from Connecticut, where I did my undergrad at Yale studying neotropical grassland birds. And I'm particularly interested in understanding how birds are related to each other. And specifically, I'm interested in the evolution of complex traits like plumage coloration in the cotingas, this orange guy up here, and courtship displays in hummingbirds, and even using birds to try to understand climate change in the neotropics. All these projects are connected by a theme of population genetics and systematics, and I'd be happy to talk to any of you about them later tonight.
Hi, my name is Catherine Grabenstein, and I am a senior biology major here at Cornell University. I first came to the Lab of Ornithology as a freshman, and I have to be honest, I was pretty unsure about whether I even liked birds and what I really wanted to do. But after 3 years of working here, I can certainly tell you that not only have I absolutely fallen in love with birds, but the Lab of Ornithology has really taken me to some incredible places. Through the lab, I've worked with professors, postdocs, graduate students, and fellow undergraduates on a host of projects here at Cornell, as well as other institutions in the United States. I've traveled to Australia 3 times to work with this cute little guy, the redback fairy wren, and I've also presented my work at scientific conferences. All in all, I've learned firsthand the joys and sorrows of lab work, field work, and data analysis. Currently, I'm working on my senior honors thesis, looking at sex ratio adjustment in accordance to food availability in the black-throated blue warbler, and I hope to prepare that in a manuscript and submit that, and hopefully use that to help me in applying to graduate school. And I'm sure you're going to get a lot of really cheesy bird puns, but I'm just going to give you mine. As I'm preparing to graduate, I really can't thank the Lab of Ornithology enough, but I think it's time for me to spread my wings and take flight.
Hello, my name's Eric Olson, and I came to Cornell from Veracruz, Mexico, 2 weeks before classes began, to attend the Young Birders event. And after that, I worked on eBird and Neotropical Birds online with Chris Wood, and I got really deeply involved with research in Dr. David Winkler's lab on campus. So last spring, I went to Borneo on one of these exploration-oriented Ivy expeditions, and it was awesome. I loved the birds we studied. I loved the broadbills and the pittas, and I knew I wanted to continue working on them. So now that I'm back, I want to use CT scans to examine the inner structure of the bill and see how that affects the thermoregulation of the bird. So basically, I want to use the bird's morphology to better understand how they've adapted to their environment. And I see this as a really nice opportunity to continue exploring these birds, but on a much finer scale.
Hi, I'm Andrea Alfano, and I actually got involved with the Lab of Ornithology because I realized that science research wasn't for me. And when I went to talk to my advisor, Dave Winkler, about this, about wanting to make a switch from science research into science communication, he of course pointed me to the Lab of Ornithology, and that's how I got involved at the Bird Sleuth K-12 department, where I've gotten to get experience writing blog posts, and I've gotten to design a curriculum teaching evolution through the birds of paradise. And I've really realized that that a huge part of why science communication is important to me is because it is education, and that things like what you see on the screen, getting kids inspired about science through nature, is really important to me as well. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dan Baldassari. I'm a graduate student here. When I'm out at the lab, I'm in the Macaulay Library. I work with Dr. Mike Webster, who's the director out there. And my research has been on these Australian birds, the red-backed fairy wrens. Many of you heard about them earlier this morning. And so basically what I do is go to Australia, chase these guys around, and do really ridiculous things like paint them with Sharpies, show them fake birds and see how they react. And believe it or not, doing things like that have actually taught me a few things about speciation and biological concepts that are relevant to these birds. So I've had an absolute blast working at the lab. I've worked a lot in Irby's evolutionary biology genetics lab there as well, doing genetic work, and absolutely could not have done everything that I've done through my dissertation without the support and incredible network from the lab.
Hello, my name is Ben Barkley, and I am a junior in the Department of Natural Resources. I began working at Cornell my freshman year with Jesse Berry on All About Birds and Merlin. These projects are geared towards helping beginning birders develop ID skills by providing accessible online and mobile field guides. I work on content management there, which means I add photos and other media to species profiles. I am also a captain of Team Redhead. The Redheads head to New Jersey each May to win, excuse me, compete in the World Series of Birding. This is not only incredibly fun, but it's also an important fundraiser for many of the projects you have seen today and will see today. And I would like to personally thank many of you for so generously donating in the past, and we hope to continue the success of the Redheads Fund in the future. Finally, I am the activities chair for the Student Birding Club, so I coordinate trips for our 100+ members to locations around New York, as well as birding hotspots such as Cape May, New Jersey, and Algonquin Provincial Park in Ontario. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Mary Margaret, and this is Cello. I'm from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I transferred to Cornell in 2012. My fascination with birds started with house sparrows and budgies, and eventually I was bestowed with a fluffy pink monster that comes with me to class and could probably give a 1-minute talk of his own. However, as cute as Cello is, he has to compete with my love for museums. I started preparing specimens when I was 14 at the University of Michigan, and I was thrilled upon coming here to be given the chance to start preparing specimens and continuing developing those skills at Cornell's Museum of Vertebrates. In the last year, I've been taught new cutting-edge techniques, for specimen preparation. And while it is easy to prioritize one over the other, we treat tissue samples and traditional museum rounds as equally valuable, and modify traditional methods of preparation to allow sterile samples of over 10 different organ types, which allows us to look at some really cool genomic and gene expression level analyses. And the complication with this is that it has to be done in under 25 minutes, which is really, really fast. Beyond preparing specimens in the lab, I have been on several local collecting trips, including in the spring we went to the Adirondacks for an extended visit, and we collected audio recordings along with full sets of tissue to complement the traditional rounds. And this summer, I hope to be going to Mexico with a grad student to help with collecting and then start work on my own project involving 2 different populations of northern shrike.
What if you had only 1 year to live? Hi, my name is Amos Bailmaker. I'm a graduate student from Israel working under the supervision of David Winkler. Sorry, Wink. And for me, that question is not hypothetical. I work with tree swallows, and I look at their telomeres. Those are the structures at the end of their chromosomes. And the shorter they are, the less likely you are to survive. We all have them. And basically, everything the doctor tells you is bad for you shortens your telomeres. So what is a short telomere tree swallow to do if it's not likely to survive? Will it lay more eggs? Will it put more beneficial compounds into them? Will it defend the nest more vigorously or feed the chicks more? Or basically, what would you do if you had 1 year to live?
Hello, my name is Ruth Bennett, and I'm a first-year PhD student associated with the Conservation Science Department. For the past 3 years of my life, I've been in Honduras, Central America, where I originally worked as a Peace Corps volunteer and then stayed on to conduct research with this bird, the golden wing warbler, for my master's degree. Here at Cornell, I'm combining my research with partners from Central and South America to create the first golden wing warbler winter grounds conservation plan. This bird has been in population decline for the last 60 years, and this winter grounds conservation plan will help us conserve the bird not only on the breeding grounds here in the US, but also in Central and South America. Honduras is a really exciting place to live and work, and my time there has allowed me to get involved with a bunch of different research projects, including one with red-throated caracaras and their nesting behaviors, altitudinal migration of the three-wattled bellbird, and foraging ecology of the ocellated quail. I'm really excited to be here at the Lab of Ornithology and look forward to what the next 4 to 7 years of my life hold.
Hi, my name is Esther Klein, and I'm a graduate student here. I actually am living the dream because I get to spend every single day of my field season on golf courses. Now you might wonder, what in the world is a field biologist doing on a golf course? Well, there's this nice feature of golf courses where golfers really don't like to have dead trees fall on their head. So golf managers take these trees off the golf course, and they're very rare dead trees on golf courses, and these dead trees are places that birds usually like to build nests, drill a hole and build a nest in the tree. And I'm interested in competition, so by studying competition between species on golf courses, I can control how many cavities are available and therefore get an idea of how competition is actually playing out by controlling the number of cavities that are available. So on some of these golf courses, I provide a whole bunch of cavities to these birds in the form of nest boxes, and on other golf courses I don't provide very many. And I'm studying the 3 birds pictured here for you. The one that's in my hand is a brown-headed nuthatch, and that bird happens to be a cooperative breeder, so they live and breed in family groups. And the question that I'm trying to answer on these crazy golf courses is, does increased levels of competition increase the cooperation, as in the group sizes of these cooperatively breeding birds? So far what I found is that courses where I think that I've increased the competition, I have in fact increased competition, and birds, more nests fail on these sites than on sites where they have lots of nest sites available, And so far it seems that being in a bigger group as a nuthatch is an insulating factor, and you're more likely to succeed in bigger groups. So hopefully 2 years from now when you see me again, I will be able to say that is statistically significant.
Hi, I'm Victor Biguma, and I'm a sophomore studying biology. And the summer before my freshman year, I was talking to a friend, and I said, it'd be really cool if I could study biology in like another country. Fast forward about 2 months later, and Irby Levitt comes into a group of other biology students and talks about this great opportunity to study evolutionary biology in the Galapagos. I was so excited, emailed him right away, and I got in. It's a great opportunity. I got to research the magnificent frigate bird and actually got to go and see its various behaviors. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity, and I hope to do research in the lab next semester.
Hi everyone, my name is Becca Bruner, and I'm in a bit of a unique situation because I'm both a staff member at the Lab of Ornithology and a graduate student, which means that I work during the day and study by night, which is actually quite convenient because the organism I'm interested in working with is frogs, which are nocturnal. So I am broadly interested in frog communication and answering questions that are relevant to conservation. In Ithaca, I'll be asking whether you can tell by frogs' vocalizations if they're sick with a disease called chytrid which is wiping out populations all across the world. And hopefully next year in Madagascar, I'll be looking at how, as climate change is shifting the distributions of species, how the choruses will shift and potentially make it more difficult for the males to attract females because it's increasing acoustic interference. By day, I edit the upcoming new edition of the Bird Biology Handbook, and I also develop courses, one of which Victor just told you about. I teach a freshman writing seminar that's related to evolutionary biology and conservation, and over spring break, we take the groups of students to the Galapagos. And I can't tell you how rewarding of an experience that is, because I went here for undergrad and took Irby's Kenya course. And that was the first time I'd ever been exposed to field biology. I didn't even know that was a profession before that. And so it's really rewarding to see that sort of spark of love for the natural world in my own students. So, and I can't think of a place better than the Lab of Ornithology to pursue both education and research. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Nancy Chen, and I'm a graduate student in ecology and evolutionary biology. Unlike most people here, I spend most of my time as the token bird person in a human and Drosophila genetics lab. But being affiliated with the Lab of O has really allowed me to dream big. So my research combines genomic approaches with a long-term ecological study of the Florida scrub jay, pictured here, to try to elucidate the evolutionary dynamics of declining populations in the wild. So we all know that species worldwide are declining, and most conservation management practices to date are based on this prediction that as population sizes shrink, they lose genetic variation and therefore experience reduced mean fitness and evolutionary potential. So these theories form a widely accepted conservation genetics paradigm, but very few empirical validations of these models have actually been conducted because it requires really significant field work and lab work. So for the past few years, I've been developing genomic resources for the Florida scrub jay. We're currently genotyping 4,000 birds at 17 markers scattered throughout the genome. And by combining these genomic resources with more than 40 years of pedigree and demographic data, we can finally provide a very comprehensive test of whether or not reduced genetic diversity results in lower fitness. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Anna Forsman, and I'm a grad student in David Winkler's lab in ecology and evolutionary biology. And I first became interested in birds as an undergrad at the College of William and Mary. And since then, I've been bouncing around from college town to college town, studying how birds interact with disease-causing organisms in the environment. So after finishing my master's work at Illinois State University, I came here to Cornell to work with the Golondrinas de las Americas network of swallow sites throughout North and South America. And I was interested in looking at what types of bacteria live in the nests of tree swallows and also on the eggshells of the tree swallow eggs, and to look at how those bacteria influence the immune systems of the birds that breed in those nests, specifically how the bacteria influence protective immune compounds that females transfer into their eggs that have these protective benefits to their offspring. So I've been looking at that across North America, and in addition to my research activities, I've also been very much involved with the ornithology course that's taught at the Lab of Ornithology, and so I've benefited very much from the wonderful collections that we have at the Lab of O, and I really enjoy sharing that with the students here at Cornell.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Laura Bola, and I'm a sophomore undergraduate here at Cornell University studying animal science. I volunteer at the Lab of Ornithology with the Elephant Listening Project as an elephant call logger. As a logger, I look at spectrograms such as these and look for the eyebrow-shaped lines that are closer to the bottom of the screen, which indicate very low-frequency elephant calls, which elephants use to communicate. This data is also compiled to help judge population densities and a lot of conservation, as in certain parts of Africa, these elephants are being hunted and poached for their tusks. I'm able to get very close to these animals, at least on an auditory level, as I won't be able to as of where I'm from. I'm from the New York metropolitan area, so elephants are very few and far between. Through the Lab of Ornithology, I have also been able to be introduced to wonderful people who are incredibly passionate and dedicated to what they do, which has also heightened my fervor for the area of wildlife conservation, a cause that I've been dedicated to my entire life and would love to pursue, especially in the future. I could talk about these guys, as adorable as they are, all day, but unfortunately I actually have to be at a theater performance later tonight, so I wish you all a wonderful evening.
Hi, my name is Meg Hilbert. I'm a recent graduate of Cornell, where I studied applied economics and management with a minor in natural resources. My connection to the lab began with a field ecology course in Africa under the instruction of Irby Levette and David Bonter. Wondering how I could combine my degree in business with a love of conservation, I approached Mary Guthrie for mentorship, and now I work in the marketing and communications department to help Mary as she builds partnerships with the lab sponsors. My work is supported by Pennington Wild Birdseed, which is our largest partnership, but I also work on projects for our other sponsors. So co-branded newsletters, promotional contests, and bird curriculum kits distributed to schools nationwide are just a few of the projects that we work on to help support the lab's conservation and education mission. Working in a field this fast-paced and multifaceted means that I never quite know what I'm going to be doing next, but it's always exciting. I feel very fortunate to work in a place with such diverse talents and passion, and I truly do learn something new every day. Thank you.
My name's Ben Freeman. I'm a graduate student, and I'm here tonight to talk to you about 1965, which these guys probably don't know, but maybe some of these. So 1965, we're talking Vietnam era, civil rights. It was also the year that a young ornithologist named Jared Diamond walked up and down a mountain in remote New Guinea and studied where birds live, this mountain here. And in 1965, the idea of anthropogenic climate change was not on anyone's radar. It certainly is today. And it's remarkable how little is known about how climate change is impacting tropical birds. Although some of the models are quite scary in their predictions. So to get some actual data on this with support from the Athena Fund at the lab, my wife and I went back to the same mountain last year, still very remote, trekked up and down, studied where birds lived. And it turns out that these tropical birds are responding really strongly to climate change. They've shifted their distributions rapidly upslope. So that's pretty cool.
Hi,
everyone. My name is Gemma Gifford. I'm a graduate student in natural resources working with Amanda Rodewald. My journey to Cornell has been similar to a migratory bird's life. Lots of struggles and successes in the process, and a love for travel. My journey to Cornell has been especially driven by my passion for animals and also the help of many people, one being former Lab of Ornithology graduate Viviana Ruiz, who took me to Costa Rica with her, which sealed the deal on working in conservation. It makes sense to be in conservation because I do have a wide range of interests that often cross boundaries of traditional academic fields. So it allows me to explore everything from social justice to environmental education to conservation. I started my wildlife career as a zookeeper at the Denver Zoo. That took me to Costa Rica, like I mentioned, to study wild animals, then to Honduras to teach environmental education to underprivileged youth. Later on, I went to Guatemala, where I'm really excited to begin my master's research with long-term partners Rob and Terica Hill, where we're going to identify science-based conservation that promotes the needs of native bird communities as well as the livelihoods of native Maya Kekchi in the highlands of Guatemala. I'd be happy to speak with you more about this research, but overall I'm so excited to be at the lab and I really feel blessed to be here. Thank you.
Greetings, my name is Aaron Bollet, and I'm a sophomore working in Professor David Winkler's lab. A year ago, I didn't see myself working in field biology or anything related to birds. But this past summer, I was fortunately not accepted to a lab in the cell biology department that worked with telomeres and oncology. Instead, I saw myself working in Professor Winkler's summer swallow crew under Amos Bellmaker and his project looking at telomere length and breeding biology. It's fascinating stuff. I got to mess around with a couple birds like this. You could see the pure bliss on my face. Since then, I've become more involved in the lab. I'm working on a reproductive life histories project, as well as I've started my own little project looking at severe weather and delayed lay date. And I could say that the resources that the lab has provided and the people that the lab have provided me access to have definitely increased my maturity as a person as well as a scientist, as I'm able to explore fields that I would not have explored before. Thank you.
Quiz break. So who can spot for me and for the whole group the 6 differences between these 2 photos? Yeah, you get to really do it. Worms, the red. Salt, grasses, wind, the ground color. Sweet. Great job, everybody. That's it. That's all there is. Don't keep looking. It's pretty simple. So I'm Petra, and besides giving you a little bit of a brain break, I'm a 4th-year graduate student in ecology and evolutionary biology. And I was brought to the lab by a personal passion for studying the evolutionary processes that are responsible for extant avian diversity. I'm really interested in speciation and evolution, and particularly evolutionary adaptation in birds. And so I designed this game for you today to illustrate my research topic that relates to that passion, which is when you have 2 habitats that at first glance may seem somewhat similar, 2 cattail marshes. But there are sometimes subtle ecological differences between those 2 places that have large evolutionary consequences for the birds that are making a living there. How those small differences can lead to evolutionary change through time, and how we can best study that. And currently I'm working on a project that studies how swamp sparrows have adapted over time to coastal versus inland cattail marshes that actually do differ in these things that you pointed out to me in the beginning, and have had huge impacts on their morphology and physiology. And I do that at the lab, harnessing the power of deep expertise in organismal biology as well as really sophisticated molecular technological advances. Thanks so much.
Hello everyone, my name is Lindsay Glassner. I am a senior studying natural resources with a minor in marine biology. However, when I graduate, I would like to get the field of environmental education. Currently, I'm the National Outreach Student Employee at the lab under the K-12 education program called Bird Sleuth. Basically what I do is I run our ambassador program. I coordinate workshops, I write a newsletter, as you can see here, and essentially what we do is we have professional educators who volunteer their time for us to host trainings and to provide Bird Sleuth resources to their local teachers. Along with Bird Sleuth, I'm also teaching at the lab, both for the migration celebration in the springtime, but also through our Kids Discover the Trails program in the summer, where we get local 5th grade classes who come to the lab, explore Sapsucker Woods, and it's just the best time ever. Honestly, this is one of my best jobs. I absolutely love it. Knowing that I get kids outside and excited about birds and excited to learn about nature, that's the most rewarding thing ever. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sarah Gonzalez. Oh. Okay. Hello, my name is Sarah Gonzalez, and I'm an undergraduate researcher working with Maren Vitusek and David Winkler to investigate tree swallow behavioral responses to predator and weather stressors. When I first came to Cornell, I knew that I was interested in ecology and evolution in the broadest sense. A previous internship at the National Zoo on song sparrow speciation had gotten me excited about birds. But I soon learned that my amusement with these animals was no match for some of my fellow students' deep passion for ornithology. As a Rawlings Presidential Research Scholar, I got involved in research in my freshman year. And I did not necessarily expect to continue research on birds because I was equally interested in all organismal groups. However, I found that all of the faculty members that were investigating topics that I found interesting happened to be doing research on birds or other non-bird projects under the Lab of O. I thought, well, I guess this is the place for me. And I've learned that birds are really great model organisms for studying pretty much anything about evolution, and I'm ever fascinated by the discoveries made here.
Hi everyone, I'm Kelly Hallinger, and I'm a graduate student working with David Winkler in ecology and evolutionary biology. And I've also found something of a second home in the Fuller Evolutionary Biology Lab, where I've been really fortunate to do a lot of my lab work. So my research focuses on how environmental variation shapes mating behavior in female tree swallows, who even by avian standards are quite promiscuous. So if you imagine this lovely little pair up in the top left-hand corner of my slide, if they produce 4 babies in a particular breeding season, it's quite probable that some or all of those babies have actually been fathered by a male other than this dashing fellow in the little hat. So I've drawn out 2 of these scenarios below, where you can see that babies in purple are supposed to indicate that they were fathered by this purple male, and babies in green are indicating that they were fathered by some other male. And my overarching question, my overarching goal is to determine whether there are specific components of the environment that influence which of these scenarios is more likely. So in other words, are female tree swallows making decisions about who to mate with based on variation in environmental factors such as temperature, predation risk, or food availability?
Hi everyone, I'm Dominique Helmick, and I'm currently working in Mike Webster's lab in the Macaulay Library. I'm an undergraduate biology major, and I started working in Mike's lab last spring. So when I came, I was kind of shocked that he gave me the opportunity right away to start my own independent research project. I conducted it this last summer at the Hubbard Brook Experimental Forest in New Hampshire on the black-throated blue warbler. So our lab actually found that the black-throated blue warbler is able to lay its eggs earlier in warmer springs. My question was asking whether the perception of predators alone could actually limit this advancement in lay date and offset it. So for my experiment in the field, I broadcast the calls of eastern chipmunks and red squirrels to females as they were nesting, kind of sad. But as of now, I am at the lab learning how to analyze my data. Overall, the lab has been an incredible learning experience. I've learned how to use the Raven software. I've done fieldwork for the very first time, and I've been able to design my own experiment, which has been one of my dreams all the way through my undergraduate career. I'm really excited to get back in the field this summer, and I'm really excited for the opportunities that the lab has given me overall, and the support that I've gotten from my mentors, Sarah and Mike. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Justine Lee Hurton. I'm the current Bartell's Science Illustration intern. Up until recently, I felt very stuck being a part-time artist and part-time bird nerd, but you can imagine my joy finding this internship where I could fully embrace my two passions and bring them together to make the kind of work that I really see myself doing long-term. A few examples I have. I've been working with the Feeder Watch program. This I created earlier this year, and you can see it now on the Feeder Watch website, displaying bird food preferences for common backyard birds. And I've also been working on a fairy run project. I'm interested in creating artwork that is scientific and accurate, but also retains the charisma and spirit of the animals that I'm really passionate about. And I feel coming to the lab has been an amazing chance for me to give back. The birds are such a generous muse to artists, and I hope that by creating my work, I can generate more interest and concern for them, and it's my way of saying thanks. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Jack Hrushka, and I'm a senior biology major studying ecology and evolutionary biology. Having grown up in Latin America, I was exposed to an amazing array of avian biodiversity. In addition to being a lifelong animal and nature lover, it was quite an obvious fit for me to become hooked on birds. And so from a very early age, I sustained my passion for birds by traveling around Latin America, helping out on my parents' farm, working with Christmas bird counts and compiling their list. But as I came to college, I wasn't sure as to how to translate that into a career in ornithology, and so I went to the Lab of Ornithology to try to answer those questions. And I was very surprised and very grateful for the great experiences that they provided. I was able to go to Kenya and Borneo. In Borneo, for example, I had the great experience of learning some really interesting natural history information of some poorly known and fascinating birds like this blue-headed pitta here. And I've also learned an innumerable amount of skill sets, such as bird banding and wildlife photography and things like that. As a graduating senior, I just wanted to say that my time here at the lab has been a great one, and I look forward to the future, but I'm also looking back fondly on all the memories and people that I've met, so thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Yula Kapitanakos, and I actually came to the lab in 2007. And prior to that, I had worked for many years as a zoo curator, and I primarily worked with captive birds. So when I got into the PhD program for ecology and evolutionary biology, I was extremely excited to come to the Lab of Ornithology, where I could work with wild birds of prey and the conservation issues that surround those species. I work with 6 species of Asian vultures, several of which you can actually see on my slide. I work in Central and in Southeast Asia, and you may or may not know that the vast majority of species that are found in Africa and in Eurasia, vultures are actually declining in population numbers. So I'm using genetic technologies to try to get a better handle on what's going on with the 6 species that I'm working with in order to better inform conservation efforts, or even just to get some baseline data, because there's actually very little known about several of these species. But while I have your attention also, I wanted to emphasize that while I've been at the lab, I've learned so much more than just about vulture research. You know, if you want to just talk to biologists that are at the lab about your research, there's always an open ear. If you want to ask about statistical advice, there's always someone that you can talk to. But there's many opportunities that students can become involved in. And both undergraduates and graduate students are really warmly welcomed at the lab. For example, if you want to collaborate on a side project with one of the many researchers there, you can do that, as I've done with ospreys. If you want to put your thoughts down into writing, you can do that through one of the many publications that the Lab of O puts out, either online or in print. Or if you want to, if you're not afraid of being in front of a camera, you can also work with the multimedia department in order to disseminate your work a little more broadly through visual media. And this is my 3rd and my final time participating in this student parade. And It's been a real pleasure working with everybody here. I'm really going to miss it, but I'm going to take everything that I've learned from my experience at the lab and apply it for bird conservation and the conservation of their environment. Thanks for listening to all of us tonight.
Hi, my name is Andy Johnson, and I'm a senior biology major. I've known since elementary school that I wanted to work with birds, but at the Young Birders event here in 2009, I found an exciting new direction that I didn't even know I was looking for. I've been extremely fortunate to follow whimbrel and godwit migrations from subarctic Canada to Colombia and southern Chile. And so I started thinking about shorebird migration as a powerful conservation story and video as a powerful medium for telling it. So I've been working with the multimedia department to film some of my research in Canada, as well as the hemispheric network of people who are devoted to shorebird conservation. I also recently had the chance to join Garrett Vin and Eric Leiner in China to help document the spoon-billed sandpiper's stopover in the Yellow Sea. And knowing now that that's exactly the kind of work I want to pursue going forward, it was invaluable to see how they went about it. I'm very certain that this combination of opportunities simply wouldn't have been possible anywhere else in the world. It's been nothing short of exhilarating. So, thanks.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Josh Lapergola, and I'm a graduate student in neurobiology and behavior. When I was in elementary school, a lot of my peers declared that they wanted to be firemen or policemen or doctors when they grew up. You know what I wanted to be? Can you guess? A zoologist. I was that much of a nerd when I was in 3rd grade that I really wanted to be a zoologist. So naturally, when I was in high school, I started a ska punk band, which dominated my life for the next 9 years. And when it became painfully apparent to me that my career choice was less than lucrative, I quickly got my act together and applied to graduate school, and I went to Villanova for my master's. It was there that I began to reconnect with my first passion of zoology, and I actually went to St. Lucia to work on a project on the white-breasted thrasher. And while I was there, I found the first nest of the gray trembler, which is depicted up in the corner there. And we spied on it, which was awesome, and we were able to describe the nest definitively for the first time. And it was finally like my life made sense. And ever since then, I've just grown this passion more and more for understanding these poorly known species in the tropics. We have far more species in the tropics than we do in other parts of the world. And by far and large, we know almost nothing about them. That's ridiculous. We need to know more about these species. And so for my master's work, I started studying the black catbird, and you can see its nest with these beautiful blue eggs down there, a very abundant species that we knew almost nothing about. While doing that work, while I was on Cozumel, I also found the first nest of the Cozumel vireo depicted up in the corner. And I've just kind of run wild with this love of Caribbean birds, and now I'm working on the Hispaniolan woodpecker, which you can see down here in the corner. And also, it gets me away from those dingy punk clubs and gets me far up into the trees. And I couldn't have done that without the loving support of Cornell. Thank you very much.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kat. I came to Cornell in 2010 with a lot of enthusiasm for field biology, but like pretty much nothing else. So I spent about a year just tooling around Cornell, not really doing anything special. And then I went to Shoals Marine Lab for a summer and took field ornithology taught by David Bonter. And I met a couple of awesome undergrads I thought were super cool. And the next fall, they introduced me to David Winkler. And I got involved in David Winkler's lab, and I got involved with his group, Cornell Expeditions in Field Ornithology. So that led me to the following spring, where I was privileged enough to go on an ivy expedition to Tawau, Hills Park in Sabah, Malaysia. As you can see, there's me about to climb a tree, and there's also 2 pittas that we caught. And that was transformative, absolutely transformative. I went on the expedition, I started on the expedition with the attitude of how will this experience benefit me in my career? And I left the field site with the attitude, how can I make myself a better team member? So that was absolutely instrumental in growing myself as a scientist, and I'm so glad I got the opportunity to go on that expedition. Right now, currently, I'm working on my honors thesis, exploring how environmental stress affects extra pair paternity in tree swallows. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emma Martone. I'm a senior undergrad in landscape architecture. And today I'm actually representing my entire senior studio, who is working on a project called Yardworks. Yardworks is a research partnership between the Landscape Architecture Department at Cornell, the Cornell Cooperative Extension of Tompkins County, and the Lab of O's project Yard Maps, which allows people to map their yards and monitor bird activity. So what we're doing in this project is working with 20 volunteer landowners down in the Fall Creek neighborhood of Ithaca. And we're trying to design strategies that can help create really viable bird habitat in urban areas, but looking at the individual parcel, residential parcel, as the building block for these habitats in urban areas. So far, the design team of 17 students and I have analyzed the ecology of the Fall Creek area, and then we've gone down to the individual participating lots, and we've analyzed what's there. And finally, we are creating individual design concepts for each of the participating lots. And our hope is that by coordinating their efforts, these landowners will be able to create a network that will enhance the bird habitat of this little urban area in the Ithaca area, Fall Creek, that will work at maybe even the regional and individual lot scales.
Hi, my name is Maria Smith, and I'm a sophomore biology major. And although I've loved animals my whole life, I didn't really start to focus on birds until I came to Cornell last year. So a love for birds is pretty infectious here, and I picked up on it pretty quickly by hearing about all the projects going on at the lab. And last spring, I started working at the lab with Sarah Kaiser and Mike Webster on the Black-Throated Blue Warbler project at Hubbard Brook Experimental Forest in New Hampshire. So my research focuses on females' patterns in brooding behavior and nest construction and how those can change with differing ambient temperatures. And I'm using the Raven software a little unconventionally to look at periods when the female's on and off the nest, so as you can see in the slide. And it's been a really great project. My favorite part has been learning about all the little details of warbler parental care that some people don't even think about, both in the field last summer and while doing data analysis in the fall. And my work at the lab has been really great. I've gotten a good foundation in research and collaboration, and I really look forward to building more skills that I can use later in my career. Thank you.
Hello, my name is David Weber, and I'm a sophomore in natural resources. I first discovered the Lab of Ornithology when I attended the Young Birds event in 2011. And it was at that event that I learned of all the opportunities here at the lab, and there sure is a heck of a lot of them. And then I decided, well, I have to come here after seeing everything, meeting all the people, and getting to go birding with some of the best people around here, and that was really what I had to do. So sure enough, I got in, and I came here. And as soon as I got here, I started working with Jesse Berry on the All About Birds project, and I helped to upload bird songs to the website and for public use. And in my spare time now, I pretty much spend a lot of time reviewing for eBird, the largest citizen science project the lab has. And I help with data quality and reviewing rare birds and making sure that the data is good. And this past summer, I had my first research experience, and I went out to to Hastings Natural History Reservation in California, working on acorn woodpeckers with Dr. Walt Koenig. And that was a really great experience, and I liked it so much. I think this year I'll be hopefully going back and doing my own project on acorn woodpeckers and seeing what other animals and birds use their cavities they create in the trees, and hopefully that'll give me a lot more experience. And I'm really grateful to the lab and the environment here at Cornell for everything, and without the opportunities here, I couldn't have become the birder I am, have the scientific knowledge I have, and do all the research I've done. I'm really grateful for the Lab of Ornithology. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Nick Mason. I'm a second-year PhD student in Irby Lovett's lab. I'm primarily an evolutionary biologist, and I'm interested in using molecular and genomic tools to further our understanding of birds. Before coming to the Lab of O, I pursued a bachelor's at Vassar College, then I went on to do a master's at San Diego State University, where I studied macroevolutionary patterns of song and plumage evolution in a group of bright, colorful new tropical birds called tanagers, some of which are shown here on the left. Coincidentally, my work on tanagers included the largest number of recordings from the Macaulay Library of any single study to date. And towards the end of my master's, I considered a handful of PhD programs and was really struck by the breadth of research as well as the potential for collaborations here at the Lab of Ornithology. Since last year, I've embarked on a number of collaborations with undergraduates, graduates, and postdocs on projects such as phylogeography of northern shrikes, the evolution of cavity nesting in old world flycatchers, and species limits in redpolls. The Lab of Ornithology has also been incredibly supportive of my core dissertation work on population genomics and local adaptations in horned larks. Taken together, these experiences and opportunities make me feel truly privileged to be a member of the Lab of O community. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Zephyr Moore-Felsen, and I'm a first-year master's and PhD student in Amanda Rodewald's lab. I'm broadly interested in the impacts of urbanization on the behavioral profiles of songbirds, and in particular, I'm studying whether urban cardinals are more aggressive and bolder than their rural counterparts. I came to birding late. I was the ripe old age of 19 when I finally opened my eyes to it, and I did it sort of unorthodoxly because I was living as an exchange student in South America when I was given the opportunity to volunteer on a research project in Brazil. And being woken up by the raucous screams of hyacinth macaws at 6 in the morning either does one of two things. Either it makes you hate birds or it makes you love them. And I consider myself fortunate to be in the latter category, and since then I've been hooked on ornithology and fieldwork. And I've been chasing birds from the sulfurous black swamps of Jamaica to the heights of the White Mountains in New Hampshire. My current ecosystem is the urban jungle of Columbus, Ohio, where I'm looking at different behavioral responses to alternate pressures, such as increased predator abundances in these cardinals. And I can't tell you how excited I am to be here with the Lab of Ornithology pursuing my graduate studies.
Hi, I'm Teresa, and I'm a junior in ecology and evolutionary biology. I came to Cornell because I wanted to do research at the Lab of Ornithology. I've always really loved science and birds. And one of the most incredible experiences I've had since coming here was an Ivy expedition to Borneo, where I got to participate in a lot of exploratory research with poorly known birds like this pitta in the center of my slide. So that involved a lot of behavioral observations and media collection, taking video and audio recordings like the one you can see in the spectrograph, which is actually really neat because it's a sound produced by the pitta that was never described to science before. Sort of on the other end of the science spectrum, I've also been involved with a lot of experimental research here in Ithaca with tree swallows. So I've helped take a lot of more complex data, like the blood plasma measures you can see in this data sheet, and I'm using some of this complex data to help answer deeper questions about avian biology for my honors thesis. I'm so grateful to have been able to participate in both types of science while here at Cornell, and I'm looking forward to continuing with both in my future as an ornithologist.
Hi, I'm Mickey Pardo, and I'm a second-year grad student in neurobiology and behavior working with Walt Koenig. Now, I love languages, and I've always loved animals, and so I guess it follows that I've been fascinated by animal communication since high school. Now, one of the reasons that I came to Cornell in the first place is because the Lab of Ornithology has a reputation as being a world-class institution at the cutting edge of research with animal sound. And I study Asian elephants for my thesis, and I'm really fascinated by the way that Asian elephants seem to combine multiple different types of vocalizations into their calls. And I'm trying to determine through my research whether this is analogous to the way that humans combine words into sentences according to grammatical rules. Now, studying elephants is certainly not easy, but I'm very fortunate in that we have the Elephant Listening Project right here at the lab, and I've already gotten an amazing amount of help from the Elephant Listening Project with my research. I've also been able to take full advantage of the workshops offered by the Macaulay Library and the Bioacoustics Research Program on recording and analyzing animal sounds, and being able to learn these skills from top experts in the field has been absolutely invaluable to me. Thank you.
Greetings. My name is Luke Seitz. I'm a sophomore, and I'm majoring in one of the more applicable, useful things that Cornell offers, philosophy. But aside from spooky metaphysical things, I like birds too. I started birding when I was 6 years old. I graduated from high school at 16 and spent the next 2 years basically bumming around South America looking for birds and leading tours. But now that I'm at Cornell, I'm trying to balance schoolwork and bird work, which is pretty rough. But my main work at the lab is writing identification material for eBird and the new Merlin app. So I've been designing a series of PDF documents that sort of explain some tricky identification problems, and those are mostly aimed at beginning bird watchers. And then I'm also trying to focus a lot more on my artwork. So I've got a big interest in illustration. A big long-term goal is to illustrate a field guide, but that's probably way in the distant future. So right now I'm hoping to incorporate illustration more into my work at the lab, and I'm really looking forward to that.
Hi everyone, I'm Shaylee, and I figured the best way to tell you about all the opportunities I've had here at the lab was to tell you about my past summer, which was the perfect blend of my interest in photography, animal behavior, and communication. So I started off on an island off the coast of Maine at Shoals Marine Lab, where I was looking at gull vocalizations as well as TAing a class in field ornithology. From there, I flew north to Churchill, Manitoba, where I was helping Andy Johnson film his research on Wimble migration. And from there, I flew all the way south to the land down under, where I was looking at the vocalizations of these tiny birds called redback fairy wrens, and I was also filming the research of a bunch of other students who were working on the same bird over there. As someone who has wanted to work for the National Geographic all her life, this was beyond perfect. I'm now working on a couple of research papers that are going to come out of that research I did over the summer and past summers. I'm working on a short video about the Australia research, as well as archiving some footage from Macaulay Library. And I have to admit that as a fairly small person coming to this country for the first time 3 years ago, I never thought I could do any of this. It has been beyond amazing, so thank you.
Hi, my name is Justin Proctor, and I'm a second-year graduate student under the direction of Dr. David Winkler. 3.5 years ago, I came to Ithaca after being offered an internship for a program entitled Swallows of the Americas. This project is a project that looks at the life history strategies of a group of 9 swallows whose distributions are spread out throughout the entire Western Hemisphere. The next 2 years I would spend traveling throughout the Americas as a field biologist, and eventually I became the project's logistic coordinator. I waited for an opportunity to couple the science I was learning with my greater passion of conservation, and I ended up finding that opportunity in the golden swallows of Hispaniola that you can see here. As you can see from the slide behind me, I'm now a graduate student at Cornell and have been conducting research on this bird for the past 2 years. Our artificial nest box approach has been invaluable in allowing us to study this bird up close and personal, while also allowing us to connect these nest boxes to something tangible in nature for the local communities. Through support from institutions like the Lab of Ornithology, what is now deemed the Golden Swallow Project has grown to become a multifaceted collaboration with groups and organizations around the Dominican Republic working together for the first time to become stewards of this bird and protect it and understand it better. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Camille. My sophomore year here at Cornell, I was taking the evolution class that Irby was teaching, and I had a question I really wanted to ask, but I could never make it to office hours, until 1 week they changed to early in the morning when I could go. And after answering my question and asking about my classes, Irby asked if I was interested in doing research. So I'm now a senior working on my honors thesis, and since I'm interested in neurobiology, I wanted to combine that with work done at the Lab of O. So I started a project to look at a gene called MSI1 that is potentially involved in the growth of new neurons in adults. I look at differences in the gene, in the DNA and protein level sequences in this gene in a range of bird species. And birds are really great models for looking at adult neurogenesis because they have natural variation in a range of life history traits, such as song learning and food storing. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ryan Shipley, and I'm a PhD student under the direction of Dr. David Winkler. Much of my interests are in adaptation and basically the roles physiology plays in it. An example, my current research is focused on the nocturnal owlet nightjars, an Indian family of birds that are found in Papua New Guinea and Australia. As you can see from the slide, New Guinea has over 8 species that are distributed across the many vast jungles. However, a single species has managed to capitalize over the entire continent of Australia, ranging from the coastal rainforest to the interior deserts. Support from the Lab of O has allowed me to explore the system for my dissertation work, integrating genomics, physiology, and field research to understand what makes them successful. To me, the strength of the Lab of O isn't simply the many experts that were housed under each roof, but rather the many open doors students find that allows them to engage in novel and innovative research.
Hello, my name is Eric Sibbald, and I am a sophomore biology major. I first learned about the Lab of Ornithology when I was much younger and was becoming a young birder, and learned about all the lab's programs and thought it was really cool. My first actual experience with the Lab of Ornithology was in 2010, when I was accepted for the Young Birders event. Since arriving at Cornell and working through the Lab of Ornithology, I've had many wonderful opportunities, including bird banding last spring, Costa Rica tree climbing last winter. This summer I was up at Shoals Marine Lab for 2 courses, including field ornithology. And this winter I'll be in Kenya with the tropical field ecology and behavior course with Irby Lovett. My work so far has mostly been involved with audio work like that. My 2 projects is, one, I'm working with the Macaulay Library to develop a data set that will hopefully complement the Merlin identification tool that we have developed, using some basic bird calls and the different song types to help beginning birders learn, and possibly in the future a song recognition program. My other work is I've been working with the Ivy expeditions and analyzing the PITA data they collected and looking at the PITA song variation based on a variety of components such as frequency, length, and a few other components.
Hey, I'm Honeysuckle. I'm from South Korea, and since I was little, I've been dedicated on the conservation of this tideland called Saemangum. It's tideland in the west coast of Korea. And this is a place where around 20,000 shorebirds used to come by to rest during their migration in Asia. And while I was working on writing a book on the conservation of this tideland, I got to see tons of shorebirds and their really cool flight patterns that they make. And this is when I first got interested in birds. Then when I came to Cornell, I got to meet great professors like Dr. Winkler and Dr. Lovett. And this summer, with their help, I got to help out with the research on tree swallow life history. And currently, the undergrads that were on the data collecting season are trying to make a paper on the reproductive success of female tree swallows with different ages. And also on Fridays, I'm learning bird scanning techniques with Dr. Boswick, which is really interesting looking inside of the bird. But honestly, every now and then I get freaked out from like slitting skins and cutting bones, because like this is my first time dissecting anything ever. And so overall, I would say Lab of Ornithology gives me amazing experiences on what studying birds are like, and allow me to see if I want to pursue a goal involved with birds. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kim Snyder. I am a junior studying environmental biology here at Cornell, and I've been working at the lab in the Bird Sleuth program since my freshman year. And so through the lab, I have been introduced to a bunch of really exciting and really life-changing experiences at Shoals Marine Lab and also through the Department of Natural Resources here at Cornell, where I did my research this summer. So currently I work for the Bird Sleuth program in their education department. And one of the things that we do here is we produce this blog together as a department. And this blog is a compilation of birding skills and of teaching tips for K through 12 educators. And we update this frequently, and everybody contributes to this. And working with this program has really helped me solidify my interests in both in science and also in communications, particularly my passion for writing and my passion for sharing my knowledge through writing. I plan to continue working with the Bird Sleuth program for the remainder of my time at Cornell, and I hope to enter a career in natural areas research and management. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rose Swift, and I first got involved with the Lab of Ornithology working as a field assistant on Janice Dickinson's long-term project on western bluebirds out in California. And there, as a recent college graduate, I began to solidify my research interests, which led to an independent project looking at bluebird eggs as a function of reproductive investment. From there, I worked on a number of other projects all across the globe before deciding to come back to the lab as a graduate student to work with Amanda Rodewald in order to study the reproductive investment of the Hudsonian godwit. And here I can build on a previous grad student's work who looked at the migration strategy, where these birds winter in southern Chile and breed in south central Alaska. And so here I get the opportunity to fulfill a lifelong dream to study a long-distance migrants, breeding biology and behavior, and I'm looking forward to going up to Alaska this summer.
Hi, my name is Joe Auckland. I'm a first-year graduate student here at Cornell, and I study bird behavior. I first became interested in birds when I got into wildlife photography in my undergrad. I wanted to take pictures of animals, but I grew up in Indiana, so there weren't many opportunities to take pictures of lions or tigers. However, birds were abundant, so a passion for birds has continued on to my graduate career, and now I get to study these red-backed fairgrounds as you see here in Australia. They're songbirds, and they're native to Australia, and they're kind of a funny bunch. Males can come in two plumage types. They can be bright, as the red-black male you see here on the left, or they can be dull, as the brown male you see here on the right. And so I'm interested in looking at how these two different plumage types may be honest signals of a male's quality. And I'm excited to say that in December, in less than a month, I'm going to be taking my first trip to Australia to begin collecting data on this.
Hi, my name is Benjamin Van Doren, and I'm a sophomore studying biology. I first came to the Lab of Ornithology roughly 4 years ago at the first Young Birders event, and that experience sparked a still ongoing collaboration with Andrew Farnsworth, through which I've been able to really discover a love of bird migration. Currently, I'm working with the Birdcast project and having a great time as we explore migration on continental scales using tools such as Doppler radar. To give you a sense of scale, on the left, there are roughly 20 to 25 million birds migrating south over the northeast United States. I've also been able to travel to places like Michigan and even Ecuador to study birds and gather audio recordings, and I'm continuing a project on the fascinating morning flights of many migrant songbirds. Overall, my time so far at Cornell has been really superb, and I'm very much looking forward to making the most of the next couple of years. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sahas, and I'm a third-year graduate student in Andre Dance Lab. I'm from Bombay in India, and growing up in a city with 20 million people, I really had to find a better place to birdwatch. So I went to the Himalayas. The word Himalaya means the house of ice, but the Himalayas are also a house of exceptional biodiversity. And one of the main reasons why there is so much biodiversity is that many species get restricted to distinct elevational zones. But we really don't know what mechanisms drive the elevational distribution of a species. With the generous funds that the lab has given me, I work in the Kedarnath landscape of the Himalayas, where I'm looking at two possible mechanisms: interspecific competition and physiological adaptations to decreasing oxygen pressure in limiting 5 species of titmice. For this work, I collaborate with local people, with Indian research institutes and graduate students who helped me accomplish my research goals in this rugged landscape. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. I'm Michelle Moglia, and I've always been interested in science and research. But when I first came to Cornell, I knew absolutely nothing about birds, and I really didn't have much of an intention of working with them. This all changed for me when I took field ornithology at the Shoals Marine Lab with Dr. Dave Bonter, and I got to experience firsthand just how awesome birds are. And not only that, but they have really cool eggs too, coming in a wide variety of background colors and foreground patterns. You could say I was totally hooked. And I had so many questions, and thanks to the generosity of the lab, I was able to go back last summer and collect data on an honors thesis in eggshell pigmentation, patterns, and background matching. And not only have I had amazing field experiences because of the lab, but I've also been able to have great lab experiences working in the Fuller Lab of Evolutionary Biology, studying both sex ratios and paternity in my first and favorite system, the gulls of Appledore.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, everyone. I think this is a moment for applause. So you students are definitely a very impressive bunch. It's just a thrill to watch you guys talk about what you do. I have two things to say because I'm not going to try to recapitulate the enthusiasm and passion that you bring to this. I think it really does speak for itself. The first thing I'll say is that was just a snapshot. Remember those numbers? We could have actually kept this going for another 3 hours if we had chosen to. So thank you guys for being a wonderful representative of the much larger group of students that the lab engages with. And the second thing I actually wish I could say to all of those students, not only those students who are here today, but all of the students who are here. There have been a lot of acknowledgments said, a lot of nice words about the lab. I think all of us at the lab owe you students an acknowledgement as well. I mean, one of the things that definitely sends us to work every day, really happy about where we are and the opportunities that we have, is the fact that we get to work with you. And the passion, the enthusiasm, the innovation, all of those things that you bring to us really have a value that can't be measured. And it's one of the most wonderful things I know for me at the lab, and I think I speak for all of my colleagues. I see a bunch of them nodding in the audience right now. Working with you is definitely one of the uttermost highlights of our professional lives. So thank you very much. And that concludes the 2013 Lab of Ornithology Student Parade. Thanks everyone for coming. Fitz, did you want to say anything? You look like you're, okay, we're good? Carry on? Okay, thanks everyone. If you're joining us later on, Melissa and Adrian are standing over here to guide you.